These days, you'll find 70-year-old Alan Harris running the clock at Naperville North soccer games. Harris just finished his final season as an assistant basketball coach at Naperville Central, a close to a 50-year career that's seen him coach half a dozen different sports.
When I started, I didn't have any visions of coaching for 50 years. I just coached. And then at a certain point, I thought, you know what? It's like 35, 38 years. I said, if I'm healthy, 50 years is a nice round number. I like round numbers. I did soccer for 20 years.
Despite never having played the game, Harris is most well known for coaching girls soccer. He won the first Illinois state title in 1988 with Naperville North, and at the time of his retirement, he was the state's leader in career victories with 339. But he's won even more considering he coached before the sport was sanctioned by the IHSA, winning an unofficial state title in 1987. That championship stands out because it was the same night as many of its players' senior prom, and they surprised them by showing up.
At 7 o'clock when they started the Star Spangled Banner, 3 of our girls walked across the field in their prom dresses, and they said, "Coach, we're ready." And I said, "Well, I'm not sure you're quite ready. You probably ought to go change and warm up." And that night, nobody could have, higher than a kite. Every varsity player came back except for one, and we were up at 3-0 at half.
Harris credits his talented players, which have included 6 All-Americans, and his assistant coaches for his success.
I always consider myself an average coach who worked hard. I scouted. I talked to successful coaches. I read books. I went to clinics. But the bottom line in any sport is you got to have talent. And Naperville's a hotbed of soccer. How many coaches can say, and I don't know many who can say this, that they've coached 6 All-Americans? And I coached 6 All-Americans. I had nothing to do with it. They were just quality people.
Harris has an important take on team sports.
One of my beliefs is everything's done for the good of the team. I always stress that.
It's this belief in his unselfishness that led to Harris stepping down as the varsity soccer coach at Naperville North.
And I had Jay Conrad as my assistant, and he's a great coach, and schools wanted him, and I didn't want to lose him. I said, "Coach, it's not my job to give, but I can't imagine why they wouldn't give it to you, since he was an All-American here, and he played at Northern Illinois, and he played pro soccer." I said, I don't want you to leave, so I resigned so he could become head coach, and I did JV.
Jay's brother Jim now coaches soccer at Naperville North and learned a lot from watching and working with Harris.
He is a coach's coach. He could run a class on how to coach kids, and so he leaned on that wisdom he had naturally to coach soccer players, and he learned the game as he coached it.
Harris was also a JV basketball coach at Naperville North, eventually moving to Naperville Central, where he worked as an assistant to Andy Nussbaum.
One thing a lot of people don't know about Al is how generous he is. Our girls, for years now, probably the entire time Al's here, they get T-shirts that say Lady Red Hawks Hoops, and Al gives them those T-shirts. He pays for the whole thing.
The two friends won 2 state titles with the legendary Candace Parker, and Harris has fond memories of that time.
I have a tradition that I never smile in team pictures. The kids always say, "Why?" And I say, "Well, because we haven't done anything yet." So the first state championship, we took a new picture for the state program. And Candace says, "Coach, you going to smile?" I said, "Well, we haven't won a state championship yet." She said, "If I promise you one, will you smile?" And I said, "Are you promising?" And she said, "Yes." I said, "Okay." So I smiled for that picture, and every time during the state series, she beat the free throw line, and I'd yell "Candace," and I'd smile, and she'd smile back.
Harris is a member of both the soccer and basketball Illinois High School Coaches Hall of Fames, a legend that continues to make an impact on Naperville High School sports. For NSW, I'm Kamenenchev.